Welcome to Manhood Race Culture Interactive. We're looking forward to having a very exhilarating time tonight, and we will be discussing one of the more controversial topics that we deal with, and pretty much everything that revolves around African American males can be controversial when you have our sisters in the room. So the question that we're going to deal with tonight is quite simply this one: Am I everybody's keeper? And of course, that is a play on I am my brother's keeper.
Right, right.
I, everybody's keeper. Responsibility of Black men. Where does it begin? Where does it end? And can it actually be tailored? I'd like to just throw that title out there for you guys to go ahead and deal with. I see that we have Sister DC Price with her hand up already. Sister DC, go right ahead.
As a matter of fact, my hand went up when you made the comment about it being more lively because the sister's in the room. Come on now, really? But one topic, you asked the question, what are Black men responsible for, or what should they be responsible for? And what first comes to my mind is to populate and keep populated the beautiful Black community culture. But in doing so, they are responsible for protecting, providing, and what's the other P? Protecting, providing, and really overseeing that Black community. Um, it they should be fathers, they should be proprietors, they should be businessmen, they should be husbands, they should be smart, intelligent, and all about making sure that the African American community is moving forward, prospering, and growing and loving each other. I yield.
Okay, thank you for that. So thank you for that eloquent Sister DC. Anyone else want to step forward? Feel free. Any takers dealing with the idea of Black male responsibility? Where does it begin and where does it end? Okay, no takers of that question. One of the things in
I'm
this,
sorry, repeat the question.
Yeah, I
okay,
need to
Brother
say
Otis,
something before you move
the
on.
question is quite simply, am I everybody's keeper? Responsibility of Black males. Quite simply, where does the responsibility of Black men begin and where does it end? Who are we responsible for? Is it our burden to be dealing with many of the issues, the collectivist issues of Black America, or are we allowed to break away as individuals and do our own thing? Floor is yours, Brother Otis.
I would say it depends. Outright no, because you are an individual.
Outright no what?
Outright, if I had to make a choice, outright, I would say no, it's not their job. Because you are an individual, and what you want to and whether you want to do something or not is honestly it's up to you. At the same time, we are burdened with some things, and some people get pushed out to doing it, and some people do won't and come to some of us come to enjoy that. Some of us come to see it as a burden and detest it. Others say I'm going to do for me and mine.
What about you specifically?
Me, I do it with limits. There's a limit where I won't, some places I won't go. I do feel the burden of being Black in the society and sometimes representing what's Black or defending what's Black or policing so-called cultural or community boundaries or whatnot. Mm-hmm. At the same time, I do think Black people are individuals, and there's some things they can do individually and should be able to. Other things, it's a little bit harder. We just ain't there yet. And
okay, then, could you delineate that? What are the different things that you're alluding to?
I'll probably say the struggle for civil rights I see almost as like, something you have to deal with. Um, uh, and no matter how burdensome it is, you're going to have to deal with this inconvenience of your race, at least in the society we live in, because it's the right thing to do. I think about a lot. I have friends now telling me it comes up every 10 or so years. Somebody talk about leaving America for somewhere else, and I'm like, well, that's fine and all, but what about folks who can't afford to move? And I begin to think twice about family I have, friends I have, in other states that can't afford to move. And
that's like no desire to move.
That too. And I was telling a friend the other day, like, yeah, Katrina was a perfect example. How many folks seen leave New Orleans and then not want to come back because they don't remember how hard it was. And those are the folks who can't afford to leave a bad situation. We can go to Ghana all we want, but still, there's always going to be a remnant of Black folks who can't do that. And I feel bad leaving them stranded.
Okay. Thank you for that. It almost appears as if you're torn between the impulses of individualism and the duties of collectivism, in between those beats. So yeah, that's a major. One of the issues that we deal with, and of course this flows from the idea of Christianity. Sister Christ somewhat alluded to it, and it is that Black men, being the quote unquote head of household, being the primary provider, the protector of his family. In you guys' estimation, is that a burden that is actually one that many Black men, not all, but a sizable portion of Black men are crumbling under that weight of that responsibility? What do you guys think?
Well, my brother, you're absolutely right. I mean, the family structure, the extended family is shrinking away. And a lot of it's happening because, number one, a lot of folks don't care or they don't think it impacts them. But this level of individualism has definitely harmed the Black family. We got people wanting to be my own individual. I want to be this my own. And we've got to come together collectively because other races are coming here collectively and surviving in America. And we're crumbling as African American business owners because we've got so much individualized thoughts in our brains.
Mm.
And we need to be retrained. That's true. We need to be retrained.
Okay.
To move in the right direction.
Okay. Thank you for that. You're clearly more collectivist minded than Brother Otis. So, Sister DC, you're up. And please remember to mute your mic when you're not speaking, so that the other participants do not get background noise.
So my thought is, the whole our community was very strong post slavery, where we came together, we depended on each other, we helped each other, we covered each other, etc. As things progressed in the United States and we made it to the 20th century and folks could get government jobs or whatever, folks started not looking outside of their core or nuclear families. I'm not going to help someone in the neighborhood because they're not my responsibility. A lot of competition, envy, etc., all played into that. So now, we have, and we're talking about our Black men leaving the Black families leaving the Black female and thinking that it's okay for them to start families and help build communities that have nothing to do with their Black core beginnings. And our community is suffered as a result. You know, I did some traveling over the last couple of days. I was in several airports, and I realized at one point I looked around, and where I would have been seeing my brothers working on the tarmac or working inside the airport as bellcaps or working at gates or whatever, my brothers weren't there anymore. It was all either Indians or uh, West Indians or Hispanics or whatever. And a brother can't have a family and help build a community if he doesn't have a job, if he doesn't work, if he doesn't bring in income, and if he doesn't use that income to support the core family. And that requires sometimes uh, some sacrifice. That requires sometimes some counseling of elders to get advice on how to do it right. So there are a lot of things that are causing what we're seeing now, but what we're seeing now is so sorry compared to post-slavery and in the century after slavery, what the strength of the Black family and the Black community was. I yield.
You know, Sister DC, you're hitting the nail on the head in regards to how I view it as well. Um, One of the things that we constantly dealing with when we once again the black male image, and when you're talking about responsibility, considering our collectivist background, you know how we got over, you know how we made a way out of no way. It almost always boils down to the idea of family and marriage. And listening to you talk, it brings up this question for me that I want to lay back in your lap. And it is quite simply, do you believe that the majority of black men, for whatever reason, and if you can, I would like for you to talk about the different reasons, are not marriageable anymore? It's on you, Sister DC.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I agree with you. They aren't marriageable because instead of focusing on reality and focusing on legacy and lineage, they're watching BET and seeing Jennifer Lopez shake her rump shaker, and they want Jennifer Lopez. Like, really, they want the hair, they want the skin complexion. And I know I'm light, but come on, really, I'm a sister. They want, you know, the Cardi B. They want the Latino, experience, etc. Uh, Video, cable TV, and porn even has really been a huge detriment to the African American family because uh, the brothers have taken it to a level where they're like, I don't need the sister. I can get this, that, and the other, and maybe even have a couple of babies that got good hair. Like that really means something. So no, I don't believe that they're marriageable. I think that folks have really uh, missed the whole meaning of marriage and the dedication required and the focus required and the responsibility that comes with it. I yield.
Thank you for all of that. Thank you. Same question is open to the entire panel. Have we reached a point where there is, I won't say the majority, but there is a significant portion of Black men, be it a non desire to be married, be it economic constraints where they can't be a provider or a significant contributor to their home? Have we reached that point where we can almost say that many Black men are simply, for whatever reason, unmarriageable.
I
Well,
don't know.
brother, let me say this, that a lot of, in my time, a lot of Black men are uncomfortable with a sister that's making more money than them.
Okay.
And we've got to get over that part and sit and look at the whole economics of the family rather than looking individually. I don't make enough. I don't do this. Or going out and getting a job to take care of the family, not just getting a gig at McDonald's or Walmart and those kind of places. We've got to move past those and maybe to the level where you start your own business.
Mm-hmm.
We've got to look at new avenues that's open if we are to solve the economic problems that we're having in the Black neighborhood.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. I'm not sure if our favorite chauffeur is available to speak right now, because he definitely looks as if he is on the job right now, driving folk around. If you're able to join us, Brother Muhammad, we'd love to hear you.
Thank you, Doc. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right, excellent. Yeah, I'm sure I got my girls with me today, so we're coming back from going to the store. But yeah, as far as marriageable Black men and the money situation, I think there's probably more Black women that makes more money than Black men. But I don't think it really boils down to the dollar as much as it boils down to the mindset. Because that's very, very important. Because if the mindset, if the woman who makes more money is white-minded, meaning that, regardless of how much he makes, she gonna wear the pants, period, point blank, then that's gonna be a problem. But if she's willing to work the situation, not from a white man's perspective, but from our original perspective, because at the end of the day, the authority in the house is truth. And both parties have to be mature enough to bow down to the truth and work it from that perspective. Yeah, there's things that men do naturally, and there's things that women do naturally. And at some point, we have to come and see the realities that we're dealing with and work them from the best perspective. Because you may want, I know every woman wants a good man. Now, you may find a good man, but he doesn't make the amount of money that you make. Does that make him no longer a good man because he don't make that kind of money? It shouldn't. It shouldn't. But in some cases, it does. And in some men, it's a problem because there's this idea that is taught that the man must make more money than a woman in order to be a man. And that thinking is a fallacy within itself. It's more things than just earning a living, especially in an environment where you don't control. So it's an environment where you're consistently looking to the enemy for employment, for food. So you're not in a natural state. So you're not going to be on a even pedestal. So you got to be able to work it out between two mature adults. As I've said before, my wife, she makes triple of what I make, but that shouldn't be the end all or be all, because there's other things that men bring to the table that you gotta have. And so I would expect that mature adults would be able to see what they need to do and make it happen. And with that, I'll rest my mic.
All right, thank you, my brother. Sister DC, we'll come to you after Brother Otis goes. Brother Otis, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I think from a class standpoint, some of these men may be unmarriageable because maybe they're not in the right class for some Black women. I know right now,
What do
black
you
women
mean
are,
class? Define class for the
as
audience.
far as maybe middle class and up, or maybe sometimes even working class and up. Like someone mentioned before about jobs. Some of these men don't have jobs. Some of them may have. I know we have a lot more brothers in prison, and they get out of prison. It's hard for them to find work. I've heard women complain about, well, I just want to find a man that has a job and that kind of deal and whatnot. And sometimes, women are going at it alone. And so that makes me, well, they're tattling around for a brother, and so they just go ahead and or either marry or another race, or just don't get married, or do whatever they want to do. And also our norms are changing. Some people just think that, well, I don't want to get married, so I don't have to get married. I can get what I want and need, and not have marriage to worry about, and whatnot. And it's a lot of reasons. But I think as far as a certain kind of black man, as far as responsibility go, I think, from a certain point of view, working class and below, a lot of brothers so-called don't want anything. They look at as not doing anything or not about nothing. But the problem is they have been wronged by society at large. I mean, they have bad schools. We have a very bad record at giving people second chances. I mean, you shouldn't be able to. You shouldn't. If you got a record, it shouldn't be hard for you to get your life back. I know guys that were in jail. They paid their debt to society. They have a lot of trouble finding work, holding work. You got to create all these special programs to get them work and get them in. They need extra help, and most times the government just does not help with that. At least not enough. And so you need at least to get the foot in the door to get yourself situated and whatnot. And other than that, I think it's a big norm deal. I mean, no matter what class you're in, I think marriage on all levels is looked at differently nowadays, especially by young people. They're not as enthused about it as their parents were. They're just finding, different needs to be met in other ways. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. As I listen to you and Brother Muhammad talk, in the back of my head, I heard a theme song coming back up. Ain't nothing going on but the rent. Gotta have a job if you want to be with me. So don't make me have to pull it out on y'all. Sister DC, it's on you.
So that's really funny, but I agree with you. The theme of the last two speakers is exactly what you said. I'll share a little snippet of a personal story. My ex, met him. He was on a Herman Miller assembly line, probably making minimum wage. It didn't bother me because I've always made money to live the lifestyle I wanted to make. We got married. The plan was that he was going to get back into the career history. I did the resume. I bought the suit. Yeah, you can do this. You have the knowledge inside. You can do this. His ultimate goal was to own his own restaurant. So we had a 5-year plan, and that 5-year plan was that he was going to get reemployed as a restaurant employee, then general manager. Then we were going to start looking at concepts and possibly open our own thing. When we got to that point, I was ready to do the business loan, whatever. And I sat down with him and I said, what's our business plan? This is your industry. I'm in IT. I know everything about IT. I don't know anything about restaurants other than what to order on the menu. So let's do a business plan. He didn't have a business plan, didn't want to even think about doing a business plan, but he wanted me to sign a lease on a closed restaurant and sign, leasing agreements on equipment with no business plan. What's the menu? What's the target audience? Who's our customer, etc. So I told him, yeah, I'm really not going to be able to do that because if I do that, if I do it all, then you work for me. you know, I don't want you to work for me. I want you to be the breadwinner, stand up, the business owner, etc. He didn't want to do that. He didn't want to do that. I wasn't supportive. All right. So things didn't go anywhere. And his complaint always was that I did not support him. I supported him and would support a brother that I commit to, with my all, 100%. But you got to bring something to the table. If I got to do it all, then, I'm the one, I'm the lead at this point. Then I'm going to be, if I got to pay the cost and figure it out and work it all out, then I'm the boss. And that wasn't why I got married. I did not get married to lord over my African American man. I got married to come together with this person and build something. And his attitude, you know, single family, single mother bring it, being brought up, being given, being petted on the head, whatever, whatever. And yeah, I kind of knew some of this when I married him, so I shouldn't have. But I gave a brother a chance. I was married for 20 years until I just said, financially, emotionally, mentally, and even physically, this is not worth it. Let me pay a white man to divorce this brother in a white court. That wasn't what I wanted. All right. I yield.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that, Sister DC. We'll take a quick 5-second pause. All right, welcome back to Manhood Race Culture Interactive. We're talking tonight about responsibility in the Black man. What is he responsible for? Where does his responsibility begin? Where does it end? Um, we've been joined by Sister Vernell. Sister Vernell, we'd like for you to give us your initial thoughts on this. I almost pulled out. I told the group, almost played. Ain't nothing going on but the rent from some of the comments that we've been hearing. What are the responsibilities of Black men to themselves, to their family, a spouse, to their children? Um, what about single Black men? Do they have a responsibility to anyone other than themselves in the pursuit of good times?
Oh yeah, this is such a good topic. And I've been in this conversation like a lot in the past week, surprisingly. And so I think with um, Black men who are married, I think they have a responsibility to be leaders in their family. I think they have a responsibility to first themselves and developing themselves to be a good leader. And I define that as, having a solid moral foundation, able to demonstrate what it means to be responsible and a provider for his family, and the various definitions of that word provider, because it's not always financial, and to help grow and develop and raise the children. I see that, like, Black men have a responsibility of being leaders in that way in their families. And I also feel that Black men, regardless of their marital status, married or single, I feel like, again, a responsibility to continuously develop themselves. But I feel like they have a responsibility to the younger generation to be mentors for younger generations, whether it is their own kids, kids in their family, children in the community, not just boys, but also girls, because girls need to know what a good Black man looks like. And so I find, like, yes, that I think that Black men have that responsibility. I think they also have a responsibility for the community, to be leaders in the community, to not shrink from, adding their voices to the chorus of voices advocating for the benefit of the various Black communities. You know, um, I find that Black men have that responsibility also. And finally, I feel that Black men have a responsibility to Black women to be our brothers, to be our friends, even, and I'm talking about relationship outside of intimate, or marital relationships. I mean, to be our friends, to be our partners, to be our brothers. Yes, I believe that they have that responsibility as well. And with that, I'll yield.
Well, you bring up a very interesting quote, yeah, very interesting point. Maybe about a month ago, I was looking at something, just went through a rabbit hole, and I came across this snippet from everyone's, seemingly for a long time, every Black woman's favorite dating guru, Steve Harvey. Okay, and now if Black men can be their favorite dating guru being Kevin Samuels, Black women had Steve Harvey for a time period. But Steve Harvey said this about Black male, Black female friendships. And he goes and he says basically, I don't have any female friends. Okay, and kind of discards the idea of Black men and Black women being able to be friends. What do you think about that? Is it possible for Black men and Black women to actually be truly platonic friends that are just looking out for each other's best interest, from not only economic, social, psychological, all of these health wise? Is that possible? Is Steve Harvey in error here? I see Sister DC put her hand up. Sister DC, go right ahead.
So Steve Harvey is a buffoon, but that's okay. I'm gonna move on. That's my opinion. My opinion about your question is that you cannot expect to marry me if I cannot consider you to be my friend, my
Amen.
best friend,
Amen.
my
Amen.
friend in any definition of the word friend. Again, real quick, I got a message off of a dating site where I still have an open profile. Brother said his profile said looking for a relationship. So I responded because demographically he fit all the markers. All right, fine. And my response was, I am not looking for a relationship. I am looking for a best friend, a companion, someone who I just, mesh with. And if I find love in that, then that'll be wonderful. What are your thoughts? That was the exact message. Never heard from the brother. And that's cool because he let me know who he was. And we would not be able to be friends first and then something else if the friendship worked out. You need to be friends before you can be anything else.
All right, Sister DC, thank you for that. Vernell, you have your hand up. Go right ahead.
I agree with Sister DC that, friendship should be the foundation of relationships, of intimate relationships. I'm not interested in having an intimate relationship with someone or, moving in the direction of having a committed relationship or marriage if it didn't start out with getting to know me as a person and in friendship. But even beyond that, even if that's not the goal, I think that men and women can be friends. Yes. And I think that it is crucial for Black men and Black women to have friendships with each other. Um, I think that is really, really important. I have always, since I was a teenager, I guess, I've always had a Black male friend, someone who was my friend. And many times that relationship would transcend friendship, and he becomes truly a brother to me, someone who I can confide in, who will have my back, who will give me great advice and for my dating life, like seriously look out for me like a brother, a big brother, or I might be more of a big sister to him. I've always had that. I have that in my life right now, and it makes my life rich and full. And it helps me to appreciate Black men on a level different from possible intimate partner, as in appreciate Black men and as people, members of my community. I think my life would be lacking if I did not have these brothers, in my life. And so some of them I have come to do business with, because we were friends. I have several Black men in my life who are friends, more like brothers, who are married. I am a family friend. I am friends with their wives as well, and periodically I get the phone call of, what should I get her for our anniversary? And I'm able to share with that, help keep him out the doghouse, but I, so yeah, so for Steve Harvey to say that men and women don't have the capacity to be friends, that is extremely short-sighted, extremely. And if he doesn't have any woman friends in his life, whether they are good friends, more like sisters or play cousins, how we all got those friends that are play cousins, then I think he's missing out on some real fruitful relationships. But that's me.
Brother Otis, it's on you.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I think he's overall wrong. I understand where they're coming from, because I think a lot of folks believe like he believes, and I've heard it. I've heard that over the years. I've heard it in church. I've heard it growing up. Brothers in the block say it. And the main issue is they think, well, men and women can't be friends because guys, if the sister's attractive, the guys can't keep their hands off of her, and it shows like either these guys got control problems or something else going on with them. But I do think it is possible. I mean, and regardless of whether there's attraction or not, it just depends on you and your self control. I mean, you can't have everything you want, and you can't go everything. I mean, a lot of his logic goes into men can't help it. Some things too. Listen to some of his logic behind some of these things, and it's just like well. I mean, it is that way because you believe it's that way, and I don't agree with him. But as far as the general question of men's responsibility, I think there on some level, as a Black man, I do think our responsibility to Black women is something that's always top of mind, and particularly I think of it as far as relationships go. Like today, a lot of kids are saying, "Well, love is love. You marry who you want, love who you want, whether they're Black, white, or other." But at the same time, I know folks, and I've still had the same thing, like, you want to be with another Black person. And I know folks on both ends of the spectrum say, well, they did it and it didn't work out, and they found love somewhere else with somebody that wasn't Black. I mean, should you ride them for that? But it still, folks found love in other races. They still feel some kind of responsibility to the Black opposite sex, so to speak, as far as holding them up, as far as instilling certain values, especially in their sons, because of the world we live in, or at least in American culture. I remember Jill Scott got in trouble like about 10 years ago for making a comment that she always felt funny seeing interracial relationships. It's because of her experience here in America. And it's just, I understand that. I mean, we haven't dealt with our issues, and it kind of bleeds over in everything. And at the same time, it's like, well, you can fit the logic on trophy wives. If you feel a duty to the Black race, can a Black spouse be a trophy spouse, even if you love somebody else? Because we have trophy wives that are Black and white, or a certain level of attraction in class. On some level, I think if you go in for the race so much that when you're gonna say, well, I gotta have a Black person as a mate, or a Black woman as a mate, and you may not get along with this person, you may love somebody else, but for the cause, for the culture, for the people, you gotta have a Black wife. Dick Gregory, before he died, called out Jay-Z and Harry Belafonte because they're not married to Black women. And, regardless of the fact whether they're in love or not, but he kind of rebuffed them because they were married to to light women, so to speak. And that's just something I think about, and this topic brought it to mind. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for that, brother. You bring up a very interesting question, and as usual, our conversations kind of get expansive. There's one aspect of, and this is for the males and the females, the men and women in here, is one aspect of the Black male responsibility to marry a Black woman. Is that a part of his responsibility? Sister DC, you have your hand up. Go right ahead.
Absolutely, it is. How do we continue our race? How do we continue to have beautiful, multicolor of chocolate skins in this world? How do we do that? I love my people. A white man can't do nothing for me but approve my loan. That's all I need. I'm just saying, I need a brother. I need someone with some brown skin. It could be vanilla brown, it could be licorice brown. I need someone with hair like mine. I need someone that I can totally take my mask off, my public mask, my hi, I'm DC Price, and just be myself, be Shaniqua. Sit back and just be real. All right. I can't do it. I can't do it. And I look at others who do it and they use the excuse, uh, you know, you should love whoever you want to love. Well, if that's the case, then love another African American. Figure out how to make that happen. All right. Figure out what you need to deal with in yourself to make that happen. I believe those who step outside have some issue within themselves and their own race. All right. But like I said, no, I need me a brother. All right. That's it. Thank you.
We're coming to you, Brother Muhammad, but I have to say this, that and I know that Vernell knows exactly who I'm speaking about. One of our professors in African American Studies, Dr. Paulette Pierce. Dr. Pierce was very, very fair skinned. And apparently, she had grown tired of the brothers in the program getting with sisters. I didn't, because I never hung out with them. I didn't know what was going on behind the scenes, but apparently something rubbed Dr. Pierce wrong. And so she comes into class one day and she says, "You know what? I'm just gonna speak on it. I'm sick of it. Okay, y'all go around here. You're going at them. They light, bright, damn near white. Now why don't you just go ahead and get to go for the gusto? Get you a white girl." And I'm just sitting there like, what in the world is Dr. Pierce addressing? I never figured out what it was that was going on. Brother Muhammad, it is on you now.
Thanks, Doc. Yes, sir. That is one of our main, most important responsibilities, is to make sure that we are married to a Black woman and have children by Black women. And as Sister DC Price alluded to or came out and said, there's so many different shades of Blackness. You can get the soul light that's damn near white to the deep dark purple Black. So there's no excuse to not have a Black person as your mate. There's just no excuse. And so to make sure that we further our race is a responsibility that falls on us, and we should never negate that responsibility, not for no cracker or no other inferior woman or man. We should not let the white man tell you that another woman is better than your own woman. And we should never be of the mindset that that stringy-haired woman with lice in her hair is better than a black woman. She could never be. She could never be better than our own women. Never. And that's something that we could never forget. I watched the trial of the brother who was on trial for killing his wife and his daughter. And I'm looking at the judge, and she's a white woman, and hair just all nasty and matted. And I'm just sitting there watching like, how could any black man be attracted to such a nasty thing like that? How could you want to lay down to something that's just that disgusting? And so we got to accept our own, because there is nothing better. There is no other woman better than that beautiful, beautiful black woman. And I rest my mind.
You know, for a second, Brother Muhammad, I thought you was getting ready to take a left turn and pull out the quote of our brother Khalid Abdul Muhammad. You're blacker than 1,000 midnights. Yeah, brother Khalid. So, we've been joined by Brother Mike X. Brother Mike, we're talking about the responsibilities of black men. Where do they begin? Where do they end? Who are we responsible for, if anyone? You can go ahead and join in right now, because I see you driving.
Yeah, peace and elevation to the family. Definitely glad to have an opportunity to join you tonight. Wish I would have joined earlier. I was working on my book. And I wonder in this conversation, has it been addressed? You know, what responsibility does the black man owe to himself? You know, because and a lot of times that goes unaddressed. It's always, you know, the black man is to be a protector and provider and defender and of his family and of his women, of his children and what have you. And, you know, some people have asked the question, well, what responsibility does the black man owe to himself so that he can be whole and fortified to be able to live up to these responsibilities? You know, there has to be some type of responsibility that you know, principles and standards, you know, that you gain and maintain that allows you to grow in stature, you know, and strength and purpose, you know, to be able to maintain and grow, you know, who you are, to be able to do all of these other things. I saw this young brother a couple of, like last year, you know, and he was asking the question, well, you know, and he didn't come up with an answer, but he asked the question. And sometimes asking the right questions leads you towards focusing on striving to figure out what the, you know, right answer is. So from my standpoint, at this point in my development, you know, I feel like, you know, there are layers. There are things that you need to live up to in your own personal life. You know, you need to be focused on maintaining a physical stature of wellness and well-being, you know, eating the right foods. You need to adopt, you know, a habit and culture of maintaining a physical wellness, the ability to be whole, the ability to be well, you know, and, you know, your mindset, you know, your mentality. You need to be one who continues to study and doesn't just seek to fit into, you know, cultures and ideologies and philosophies, just because somebody else tells you that this is what you should be doing. You know, of course, you should always, you know, strive to learn, you know, where you come from. You know, how did you get in the position that you are now? You should be focused on wanting to, of course, again, you know, to have a great mate to walk with you. And I agree with some of what you're saying. So, you know, just to check that off, you know, you should be striving to have a strong black queen by your side. But in order for you to have a strong black queen by your side, you got to be focused on being a strong black king, you know, and what does that mean? And how does that look like? So I don't, you know, So these are some of the things that I think that the Black man has to begin to question himself on. And there's a spiritual component, not a religious component, but there's a spiritual component that I feel that you have to connect to, as children of creation itself. I think that everybody on this line is probably, would consider themselves to be Black and proud. But is that enough? A lot of times. Because a lot of times striving to adopt this Black and proud mindset, a lot of it, of course, is hoping that you can create some type of synergy and cooperation with other Black people. But what if you find yourself in a position where a lot of Black people don't want to consider themselves as Black and proud and don't want to adopt the principles and standards, that you are focused on and trying to bring about? Where does that leave you? How do you continue to grow and evolve if your whole mindset was focused on being Black and proud and organizing, and we're stronger together than we are separate, and you find yourself surrounded by people who don't want to do the work to come up into that mindset and that responsibility and practice? So you got to be able to leap and to go further and not just have your own development arrested, at that point. And this is where I feel like the practice of spirituality, the practice of being a lifelong learner comes in, so that you can go above and beyond just being, I can only be activated as protector and provider or as a strong, so anyway, this is a great conversation. And honestly, this is what I'm writing on. This is what I just finished writing on. And this is, the type of lifestyle that I'm striving to build and maintain as I go through this existence of life. Because I've thoroughly committed myself to, Black nationalism, a Black power advocate. I thoroughly committed myself to it. And I put my whole life, I put to the background. I wasn't thinking about, how strong will you be at 50 years old, and what will you be able to do for yourself? If everything you've committed to doesn't work. I never even conceived it, and when I finally began to recognize that I was surrounded by a lot of Black people who hadn't gone through the academy of Black nationalism, and a lot of them, wanted to submit to a white benevolent, God, in the form of a president or whatever. Man, I was nearly destroyed by that realization. I'm talking about heartbroken, humiliated, defeated, So anyway, thank you for giving me an opportunity to share.
Always, my beloved brother, always, always. This whole idea of Black men in responsibility, especially within an economic moment, a occupational moment, might be a better, more appropriate way to talk about it. Are the majority of Black men, or at least a significant portion of them, destined for, as Jay-Z would put it, a hard knock life? When you consider that most women, when you talk to them about what it is that they're seeking in a mate, they always bring up the two P's: provider and protector. And in a situation where Black men are not employing themselves, you're not in control of how much you make. You're not in control even if you have a job. I always liken it to the idea of us approaching white folk with our hat in hand as beggars. And it's one of the things that I preach about literally to my students on a daily basis. Why are you here? And a majority of them, probably at a 97, 98% rate, will say, well, my parents sent me here to get an education so I can get a good job and make money. And I almost want to scream, because nowhere in that formula, in that conception and what have you, is the idea of entrepreneurship, to be an entrepreneur. It's extremely rare. And so when you situate Black men within a what many people would refer to as a post civil rights moment, where that ground has been in many ways conceded, and Black men are on their own, and we don't have the means to employ them as a community, are they doomed? Sister DC, go right ahead.
So the hard knock life, you know, life is a struggle. And I think one thing most parents forgot to tell their young Black kids is this ain't easy. You know, saw the food on the table, the lights were on, all that good stuff. And I know for me, when I finally graduated school and it was time for me to step out on my own, I was like, pay rent. What's that? Yeah, whatever. But getting back to the Black man and the responsibilities, um, you know, eh, for me and for a lot of my sisters, it's not about how much money you bring in. It's about to equate with your leadership or your stature within the home. It is, and that provide and protect thing, those are the words that are used, but it's not always provide a lot of money. It's provide at your capability of money. You know, if I decide to marry a man who makes $40,000, either I have to live at a $40,000 income or I have to expect to uh, contribute the rest to whatever lifestyle level I want to live at, because I'm expecting my man to mow that lawn if we have a lawn. I shouldn't have to pay Jaime and his brother to come and mow my lawn if I got a Black man at the house. I expect my Black man to do the things that support the unified goals that we have, not to tear stuff up, not to make bad decisions that cost us money or opportunity or whatever. So when I use the word provide and protect, I don't mean money only. I mean, if there's a lack of income, but you my man, then I'm expecting you to bring everything else and to stay focused with it and to do good with it. Um, Hard Not Life, that's the story of being African American in America. Um, I yield. I think I made my point. I yield.
All right, thank you so much, DC. Thank you, thank you. Anyone else want to jump right in?
Hey, what's up, Doc? This is Jamal. Can you hear me?
I was wondering if that was JD from the Lynch Mob.
Yeah, man, come on now.
This is you can go ahead and introduce yourself to our group.
All right, hello everybody. I'm Jamal Dell, former student of Dr. Jones. And we've developed a pretty decent friendship outside of school over the past few years. And I've been meaning to get on one of these calls for a while. I tend to be a little busy this time of day, but I made some time for this particular topic. And I guess, as we'd always say, to piggyback, I'd like to piggyback on the sister's comments just a second ago and say, my biggest question in today's society when we talk about the role of a Black male is, how do we deal with the contradiction of the quote unquote empowerment of the female / the Black woman in the world to be independent? And we talk about male and female roles, but a man is supposed to have particular roles, but yet we teach women now to basically be self-sufficient. And men are attacked for trying to maintain or holding on to those traditional male roles of identity. And personally, a lot of those male roles that we have today come from that Eurocentric construct of the man is this and that, when we all kind of know in life you need the pair regardless. So personally, I don't really subscribe to the roles in those types of general descriptions in the first place. But understanding how to navigate that world is pretty difficult, to be completely honest. Because there are a lot of things we deal with in terms of identity, as far as being strong, but yet being sensitive, knowing how to have emotions, but always taught to hide those emotions. How do you express that? How do you communicate those things? And then when you talk about the traditional provide and protect mantra, that generally meant the man made enough money because there was a society designed where women weren't working. And that's where that structure comes from, as the man was able to single-handedly afford a household. That's really not an option today unless you're making basically over a few $100,000 a year by yourself. So I just think there's, personally, I think the discussion for me is more in line of how do we deal with the contemporary genderless components of relationships, I would say.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Does anyone want to deal with that question?
Can you restate the question, Doc?
Okay. What he's asking is quite simply that within a community, Black America, that is 80% of Black children will be raised in single parent households. That's what the data tells us. At the exact same time, the data is also saying that only 1 in 4 Black women will ever marry. That is creating a situation where our girls are being raised to understand through observation and participation that you are going to have to, quote unquote, and I will use the euphemism that they use, be strong, that you can't rely upon a man. And here at the exact same time, you have a cadre of Black men who are still operating from that traditional position of being the head of household, being the provider, and X, Y, and Z. And when those two forces collide with each other, you're going to have a problem. So how do Black men responsibly deal with that issue of a shifting understanding of the role of the female within the home, and Black men kind of occupying a stasis position where they're still attempting to live in a model that was created in the post-slave period, to be honest with you?
Yeah, I would say, I think of Dr. Nellie Fuller, and he has stated famously, if you don't understand white supremacy, as a system, everything else will confuse you. There are some hard social, political, economic battles that we have to confront, collectively, as a people, in the neighborhoods in the cities, in the neighborhoods that we live in. The system of white supremacy has reduced, the Black communities to, basically third world colonies, where we have no entree, any power politically, where we have no economic vested interest in the places that we live. The buildings, 9 times out of 10 that we live in, are owned by outsiders. The stores where we purchase our food and other goods and services are owned by outsiders. And because we don't have a lot of times, and we're not, we're just neighbors, a lot of times amongst one another. We don't have any particular code that we're following collectively that will help us to build the social cohesion that will translate into political and economic power, so that we can begin to take back our communities and enjoy, what you're supposed to be able to enjoy when you're united and you have control of the policies and the economics of your neighborhood. And this is something that we need to continuously strive to fight for. And what stops us a lot of times from doing that is, our leadership, has continuously been killed off, and it has thrown us back into extended periods of darkness where, you know, we're just merely not existing and regressing, you know. And I was born in one of those dark periods, you know, from the 70s to the 80s. You know, I was born in one of those dark periods. So, and I picked up a whole lot of anti-self, anti-black, you know, habits, you know, in that time. And then I had my awakening. And now I have to, you know, not only do I have to strive to build upon that awakening, I have to strive to get to a point where I can begin to cooperate with other people amongst us to now practice a pro self, pro black mindset, you know. And we got to win that battle, you know, now that we're awakened again. And usually when we're awakened out of that extended period of darkness that follows, you know, the killing of our leadership, the maligning of our leadership, the elimination of our leadership, usually the abuse gets too strong. You know, some type of abuse just is just too big to tolerate, you know. In the 50s, it was Emmett Till, you know, his killing that activated us and activated, you know, the modern civil rights movement, you know, at that time, you know. And then they put us back to sleep by the 70s. The white backlash happened, you know, and we didn't wake up until the late 80s, early 90s. You know, in the 2000s, we was back to sleep again. Obama, you know, kind of, you know, and the white backlash to the Obama phenomenon woke us back up again. So now we're awake again. What do? You know, do we continue to focus on white people and shout Black Lives Matter? You know, do we continue to look for a benevolent white father or white mother, you know, to come in and provide us with jobs, you know? Or do we go back to the philosophy of we need to be independent? We need to own, you know, our own communities so that we can begin to be self-determining and self-regulating, you know? So, you know, I feel like that's where we're at right now. You know, we got to stop responding to a nihilistic culture, you know, that has us as, you know, basically dependents, you know, basically, you know, someone who doesn't have the right to speak. You know, like, you know how when we grew up, like a lot of us, when you grew up as a child and the adults was conversating and talking as a child, you wasn't welcome in the conversation. They would tell you, yo, you better get out. Don't be here out here amongst these adults. Go in the other room with the other children, you know, and don't be too loud when you're out there. And basically, this is the way Black America is being treated right now. We're being treated as little children, you know, that don't have the right to speak about what needs to be happening in America at large and in our communities in specifically, you know. So anyway, I tend to like to get to the root of the problem, you know. And you know, sometimes in me getting to the root of the problem, to make sure that we focus on the root and not just focus on the leaves or the branches or the effects, you know. Sometimes I might take you on a little trip of history just to make sure that it's stated so that we can attack the root problem and not just deal with the cause. You know what I'm saying? And some of us have to take the responsibility to do that in our own lives as individuals, you know, to gain as much understanding politically, economically, socially, you know, as far as the dynamics between brothers being able to relate to other brothers, you know, not in a nihilistic way of, you know, the way they used to pit the black men as entertainment, as in gladiator school amongst one another. We got to break some of these paradigms, you know, and I hope that I answered somewhat of the question, Doc. And you know, we need to be ready to move on. Go ahead.
We're up against the time. Sister Vernell, you're next.
Yeah, I was trying to in my own mind trying to hook up what Brother Mike X was saying with the question of the responsibility of Black men, or the roles or shifting roles of Black men and Black women in the home. And I said it earlier that I do think that you know, self-development, you know, positive self-development is one of the things that Black men are responsible for. But even in this current time, it's 2021, and we know that life is ever changing. The roles of Black men and Black women in the home, in the community, you know, wherever we gather, is going to shift and change, you know, and evolve, you know. And I think that people need to be flexible enough. Black men and Black women need to be flexible enough. And yes, you know, someone said it earlier that oftentimes Black women talk about needing or wanting Black men to be the two P's, provider and protector. That is because I think most of us have not experienced that in the course of our lives. Some cases with some women ever have never experienced what it was like to be in such solidarity with a Black man that we know that he is our protector, you know, whether that is your husband, boyfriend, intimate partner, father, uh, friend, you know, favorite guy, cousin. You know, so many Black women have never experienced what it is like to have a Black man as a protector, as someone who, you know, is going to look out for her safety and security. And so I think that's one of the reasons why Black women say that a lot, you know, when they talk about the responsibility of Black men. With that, I yield.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Vernell. Does anyone who has not had an opportunity to speak want to jump in real quickly? Because we are definitely up against our time, and you know that I am a stickler for, you know, for time, for ending at the same time.
Brother Jones.
Yes, sir. Go right ahead.
Brother Strong. The topic is definitely created some discussion on it, and sometimes, you know, I think we need to look at. We got to get past ground zero before we can start. The rocket can take off, and we're still dealing with this power issue. It's a problem. It's our problem with the white people. Our problem is with the Black folks, and that's where we've got to settle down, because we have more money now than among African American than we've ever had in the history, and still we got problems. We don't look at our community with value. No one's going to give you the community. You have to be able to work for the community. Other races are coming and buying up neighborhoods, buying up stores, laundromats, things like that. We could have been doing the same thing, but one thing that we lack is trusting each other. And I think trust is the center of our problems, which will lead to solutions if we get to doing that. If we follow these discussions at another time, I believe we can really gather some more people together. We can bring some things to the center. We can look at city to city as far as identifying a city that let's work on it, let's clean it up, and then move to the next city. So I'm all for that change. That change can happen, but let's not look at other folks' problem. I've always been for reparation. Well, that's going to require some time and some apologies, and that's not going to happen. So we've got to find other ways to get our churches to invest in communities development.
All right, my brother. We'll have to hook you up another time with Brother Muhammad.
Okay.
Right now, he and a group of our people have moved to Mississippi. and they
Okay.
are doing some major things within a city there.
Okay. Good. Good.
Yeah, it is certainly a worthwhile endeavor. I would like to invite our newest guest, um, Brother Jamal Dale, who's one of my star students. I would like to give him the spot to be able to address the group, state whatever he feels he needs to state, and hopefully Brother Muhammad is around and he will take us out after that is done. So, Brother Jamal Dale, if you so choose, please step forward.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Dr. Jones. I just really want to say I appreciate the opportunity to one, express myself in an open forum and just have a conversation. And at the end of the day, I really enjoy producing thought and just doing critical thinking about the change a lot of us say we want to see. I prefer the opportunity to have the action actually be an application to the life that you live in and of itself. So I believe being that example, period, is more important than being anything else. And it's good to be around people with different mind states and who think differently, and the opportunity to just express that and, to come together as a people, so to speak, and just in real time, having the opportunity to be a part of a group larger than just my own is a great opportunity. And I always appreciate when I can reach out to people. So just thank y'all for the time.
Right, my brother. As always, you are, and it goes without saying that you are welcome here. And anytime, man, anytime even if you got just 10 minutes. Good night, Sister DC. Come on in and build with us for a little bit. Brother Muhammad, are you here? Are you still in front of your mic?
Yes, sir, Doc. I'm here. I'm actually teaching my baby girl how to drive.
Oh Lord.
She's been she's been accepted to USC. So in August, she'll be taking that plane trip over to California. So we're working on her driving ability.
All right, USC bound, huh? I mean, that all I have to say is quite simply this, there are only two types of people in the world. Those who are and those who want to be Buckeyes. You can always come home, baby. We got room at Ohio State for you. Okay, you can become a Buckeye. Okay, don't let him force you out to Cali.
I am very much so hard girl.
California gonna fall into the Pacific, right?
I mean, it might.
It will. There's no might. No, it is going to. Okay.
But we
I mean, you can always come home. We got a place for you at Ohio State University. Can we borrow your father for 1 second and have him take us out in the way that he takes us out?
All right, thanks, Doc. And as we always say, you kill the nigga in you, I'm gonna kill the nigga in me. Now God reigns supreme. We are
Yes.
today, tomorrow, forever. Love you. Blessings. Assalamu alaikum. Shalom.
Thank you so much, my brother. Thank you. I'd like to send a thank you to everybody who's present tonight. Love you all. And as always, we will be back here at the same place, same time, dealing with a new issue. And y'all be safe out there. Y'all be safe. And if you can find the time, 5 o'clock on Tuesday, Brother Muhammad holds his show in the same space. So you're welcome at either show. Okay, y'all be good. Y'all be safe. Peace.